Hey everyone, this is Nick, and if you follow the channel for a bit, you know that privacy is pretty important to me, which is why I'm not using any Google services today, apart from YouTube. Because, let's be honest, there's basically nothing else. But every time I talk about privacy, I get the same myth and misconception being posted in the comments or written somewhere else. If you have nothing to hide, you shouldn't care about privacy at all. Privacy is already dead, just accept it. The cloud is just someone else's computer. All of these myths and misconceptions need to be laid to rest. So let's take a look at why they're mostly wrong. Unlike today's sponsor, which is absolutely right if you want to protect your privacy and secure your internet connection. This video is sponsored by Safing. They make the Port Master, which is an amazing tool that lets you control and monitor your internet connection with a simple graphical user interface. You get block lists, you get profiles depending on your current connection, and you can even tweak settings per app. It's also completely open source and free. Safing also makes the SPN or Safing Privacy Network. It's a powerful VPN alternative which spreads your connections across the globe instead of rerouting all your connections to only one server. With the SPN, you can be everywhere at once, and no website can build a profile from your visits and your location. Of course, you also get all the benefits from a traditional VPN. If that's something you'd like to try, and if you want to help support Safing's open source work, you can subscribe to the SPN right now, or download the Portmaster by heading in the link in the description below. So let's begin with the most egregious one, which is probably also the most frequent. If you have nothing to hide, you shouldn't care about privacy at all. This stance is extremely common, but it also completely misses the mark. First, are you sure you have nothing to hide? Have you never taken a fake sick day off? Have you never trash talked to your employer, to your friends and family? Have you never written edgy jokes online that, taken out of context, would make you look like a horrible human being? Have you never searched for anything weird online? Or sent a compromising picture of yourself or a specific body part to someone else? Nice elbow pic, dude. Because while all these things might not strictly be illegal, depending on where you live, they could still get you in a lot of trouble. Everyone has something to hide, whether they think so or not. And why is that a problem? Well, if tomorrow a new law passes that requires all companies that store all your messages, emails, pictures, tweets, Facebook posts, Instagram photos, and more, if these companies were required by law to give that information to your employer, for example, well, you could get fired. If they were required to give them to your bank or insurance company, you could lose your health insurance. For example, if there's a picture of you smoking a cigarette when you declared you were a non-smoker. Or if you said you needed that line of credit to renovate your flat and you post a picture with a new car instead. You wouldn't believe how many people get caught on minor offenses or tax evasion just because they posted an Instagram photo. Like seriously, bunch of idiots, just use the Fediverse. It's basically like not posting anything at all, no one goes there. Okay, sorry about that one, I love the Fediverse, I'm on it, all links are in the description. Well done, Nick. A joke that turns into self-promotion. You need to stop watching LTT right now. So, unless you're the most upstanding citizen who never, absolutely never did anything that could be held against them, and in that case, welcome because you're probably the only one or you've just been born. Unless you're that most upstanding citizen, you do have something to hide, whether you realize it or not. Then there are things that aren't problematic for you now, but could become in the future. Look at how the law evolves. You might be lucky enough to live in a country that's quite tolerant to every gender, sex, sexual orientation, skin color, religious or political views. For now. But as recent news clearly demonstrated, that's not necessarily something that is set in stone. If all companies and everyone knows everything about you, these things can and will be used against you to discriminate when a less tolerant government takes charge. And finally, there's the hacking risk. All the data you store on these big companies' servers can be hacked. It's happened a lot in the past. And do you really want all that sensitive or even mild information about you floating around, accessible to everyone? Your home address? your phone number, your email address, or your loved ones and all their contacts details, or your credit card number, or social security number. All of that means that even if you feel that you have nothing to hide, first, you're probably wrong, and second, it doesn't mean that you should let big companies or anyone compile all that data into a giant profile about you. The second misconception you often hear online is privacy is already dead. Don't even bother, it's impossible to stay private online. And if you believe that, you probably do not know how to use a search engine online, or you haven't been listening to me well enough, which shame on you, but also I understand. Still, if you look online, you will find a ton of ideas, guides, and videos that do just that. Tell you what is private and what isn't. Privacy-respecting alternatives are everywhere. From your web browser to your search engine, your email service, your cloud storage, your office suite, your operating system, or even your phone's operating system, or the very apps you use. There is a privacy-respecting alternative for everything. And if not, there's at least a way to make the stuff you already use more private, if not completely bulletproof. Because while it is possible to stay private online, it is extremely difficult to become a ghost and leave no traces at all. I still use YouTube and Twitter and therefore work for this channel, but they're still tracking me. One day, one of them is gonna catch me. I cannot run forever. They're here. Privacy isn't dead. It's never been so alive. Laws get passed all the time, in the EU, for example, to ensure companies cannot do anything they want for as long as they want with your data. Entire applications have the sole selling point of being good enough and private to replace the ones you currently use. That's the main selling point of Brave, for example, or /EOS for your Android phone. And then you have companies that try and surf on that privacy wave to try and sell you more stuff, like Apple. Yeah, these guys are just as not private as Google. They collect a ton of stuff, and they just keep it for themselves, but they still use it. And that's the real issue. Privacy isn't dead. It's so alive that it's even hard to know what is really private and what isn't. Because privacy will be thrown around like a marketing term without any real basis or the privacy policy to back that up. Which means you either read through every giant legal scrolling pane of text and decide for yourself, or you trust other people that recommend things. Or you try and stick to open source, trusting that if there was something nefarious going on, someone would have noticed by now. So yeah, going private is not easy. You give up comfort, you give up ease of use and what you know to try and learn some new things that you also have to research. But privacy isn't dead at all, it's never been so vibrant. The next misconception is one that is harder to dispel. They give me great services, so it's worth it. This is hard to dispel because it's very personal. If you think your privacy doesn't matter, I think you're wrong, but you're absolutely entitled to having that opinion. And you're absolutely entitled to thinking that those free services are a good deal in exchange of all your personal data. But let's consider this for a moment. First, the services aren't free. The price for these services is your data. The constant, omnipresent gathering of everything you view, you do, you click on, you write, you exchange, or you send online. Now, if that's a price you're willing to pay, well, then perfect, but that's definitely not free. Another thing to consider is that you could absolutely get services that are just as good and just as free, but do not invade your privacy. Just because they're not as well known doesn't mean they don't exist. And if you don't want to change your habits, then that's fine. As I said, it's a personal choice. Is the time you're going to lose relearning a new service, or even finding a new service, worth it or not, in exchange for not leaking data all over the internet? Personally, my choice is that it is absolutely worth it, especially considering that there are tons of alternatives that offer great features at no cost. And even if they're paid for, I would rather pay $10 a month and have a private solution than use something for free that builds a giant profile. Hey, I would even pay for all the Google services if they offered a privacy-respecting tier that does not gather any data. I would pay for that. And the final myth that annoys me to no end, which will probably result in a wave of people writing it again and again in the comments, because people are like that. That final myth is the cloud is just someone else's computer. And boy, is that not true. Because, of course, if you store your files on a company server, then yes, they're stored on a computer that doesn't belong to you. That's actually true. While Google, Apple, Microsoft, and a lot of other companies will absolutely parse every single bit of data or file that you send on their servers, whether they parse it on device or on the cloud. Not all companies do. A lot use end-to-end encryption, which means that your data is encrypted on your device, sent in that form to the server, and stored in that form there, where basically no one can decode it but you. So yes, that data is not on your computer, it's on someone else's. But that doesn't mean it's accessible to everybody. And then that's completely ignoring the fact that you can build your own personal cloud. Yeah, imagine that! And it's actually extremely easy to do. If you want a replacement for cloud storage, photo management, notes, RSS feed reading, collaborative wikis, calendars, office suites, and a lot more, all you have to do is find an old computer, install Ubuntu on it, run snap install Nextcloud, and you're done. You have access to every single one of these services from anywhere in the world, as long as your house has power and internet and you remember the IP address or the domain name you chose. That's the exact definition of the cloud, and it's on your computer. So sure, it might not be as easy as just signing up for a Google or Microsoft account, but honestly, with the number of guides floating online, virtually anyone can do it or has a friend or family member that can. So yeah, privacy is a complex topic, because while I personally believe that everyone should care about it and switch to private alternatives, if only for the basic services that you use every day, like your web browser or your search engine, it is a personal choice. Some people do not care, and that's perfectly fine. What is not fine is these people trying to discourage others by repeating the same old busted myth and misconceptions online. Privacy-respecting alternatives are everywhere. My operating system, my web browser, my search engine, my own complete personal cloud, all of these are completely private. And sure, it was not extremely easy to replace everything with more private alternatives, but it's absolutely doable. Just like getting a computer that runs Linux out of the box is also absolutely doable, thanks to today's sponsor, Tuxedo. Tuxedo is a company based in Germany that makes laptops and desktops that run Linux out of the box. You can pick from a big selection of distributions right at your device's configuration on the website. Or you can install virtually any other distro you want, knowing that it's going to work completely on those devices, and if there's any tweak you need to make, Tuxedo provides repositories with configuration options and packages that fix the most common issues. They have a huge range of devices, from the smallest Nox and Ultrabooks to the biggest gaming desktops or laptops like this one, the Stellaris 15 that I just reviewed and just bought from them, which is a monster of a laptop with the best keyboard I ever used on any laptop, period. And all of their devices can be configured immensely with tons of CPU options, GPU options, RAM, storage, and you can even engrave your own logo on the back. It's laser etched and it looks amazing. So if you need a new device that you can be sure runs Linux 100%, head over to the link in the description below, click it, and maybe grab yourself a new Tuxedo laptop or desktop. They're really nice. So, thanks everyone for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't hesitate to like, to subscribe, to drop a comment, to turn on notifications. You know what to do. And if you didn't like it, you probably also know what to do and you probably didn't reach that point. But if you did, dislike it and tell me why in the comments as well. And if you really enjoy all these videos and you want to support what I do, there's a super thanks button underneath this video, there's a PayPal link in the description, or a link for Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Both of these get access to a weekly Patreon cast and the right to vote on the next topics I'll cover. So thanks everyone for watching, and I guess you'll see me in the next one. Bye!